Okay.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carla Johnson. I'm with Region 11 Education Service Center, and we thank you for being with us this afternoon. We are going to get started in about 4 minutes, but we just have a couple of housekeeping things that I just wanted to visit with you guys about. It's important for me to mention that these opportunities for your educators and your youth are provided by a generous project or initiative from Texas Workforce Commission. And so we're excited that this spring we have so many opportunities, and excited that Dr. John McNaught and his youth leaders and Kendall are able to join us for this next little nugget of developing self-determination skills. And on today, we're going to be focusing on competence.
All right, you guys.
Okay, so just for you guys to know, all of the resources that John McNaught will be covering today and in our future sessions are all located on the I'm Determined website. But for ease, I've placed today's resources. If you want to use this QR code to access, it's on the Regional Transition webpage. And also, educators that are in attendance, we really need a count. We don't need any names, we just need an account. If you have students that are joining you this afternoon, it would be very helpful for us to know, for you to complete this survey that I'm gonna drop in the chat once we get started. For you, it'll take you 30 seconds to fill it out and just let us know how many students you have attending or participating today. All right, just to let you know, like I said, this is a series, just like self-determination. It's a journey. Our next session will be on Tuesday, April the 6th at 2 p.m. And then the following month, we will be focusing on problem solving on May the 4th at 2 p.m. And then on June the 1st, we'll have a showcase and discussion where hopefully educators, you and your students will have the opportunity to culminate all these different skills that the students are working on and that you will continue to work on in the classroom. And we invite you all to participate in a very open showcase and discussion on June the 1st. And last but not least, we certainly value your feedback. And I will be dropping the link for a survey. It is a required component for the Charting the Course initiative. So if you guys would take the time to fill out that survey, again, it's very brief. It'll take you all of 30 seconds. So again, thank you for joining us this afternoon, and we will get started here in about 1 minute.
Okay, I've got 3 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and begin. Welcome, everybody. Need to submit these folks from the waiting room real quick. I'm John McNaught with the On the Term Project. I have Kendall Schwarzenschreiber with me, who you will hear from shortly, who is one of our co-state coordinators of the project. And we have 3 of our youth leaders who you'll hear from also in a second. And we chose, if you were on the call last month, it's the same 3 youth leaders. If you're new this month, we have chose youth leaders who are a little bit older and are all currently have successfully graduated high school or are now enrolled in different colleges across Virginia. And the point with that was just that they've got a little bit more hindsight to kind of discuss self-determination in their journey. And so today we're going to talk about competence. So just a reminder, I'm Determined has what we call the elements of I'm Determined. And these are the what you're looking at right now on your screen. And this is what makes up a self-determined person. And so when you look at the elements of I'm Determined, you'll notice that we have skills that build on. Once you acquire the skill, it leads to an ability, and once you acquire the ability, it leads to a belief. And so specifically today, we're going to be talking about in building competence. We're going to be talking about the skill of problem solving, which leads to the ability of self-advocacy and the belief of both self-awareness and self-efficacy. And so problem solving is just, can you, do you have the skills necessary to solve a problem when one arises? Self-advocacy, can you speak up and tell someone what you need to succeed? And then self-awareness, do you know what your own strengths are, your own preferences,
I need to get her friend so they can talk to each other.
Let me mute real quick.
Early this morning,
If you're listening, if you can go ahead and mute.
Yeah,
There we go.
thank you, John.
Perfect.
I was trying to find out where that mic was.
That's all right. And so then lastly, the belief of self-efficacy, which really speaks to competence in the sense that you believe you have the ability to succeed in a specific situation. So just a reminder, it's our belief that, and it's our theoretical framework, right? That if you work on the elements of I'm Determined on the left, and you build in autonomy, which we talked about last month, competence, which we're going to talk about this month, and relatedness, which we're going to talk about next month, if you build those into the environment and focus on those as well, it's what's going to lead to a successful post-school outcome for our students. And the reality is, what we talk about today, this is true for just everyone in life in general, okay? Doesn't matter if you have a disability or not. These are just helpful skills and an approach to just succeeding in general in life. So competence, just so we can get on the same page, right? What does it mean? It's a big word that means simply we feel that we have the skills needed for success, right? And so if I was, driving down a dark country road in Texas and I was out of cell service and I got a flat tire, would I feel confident in my ability to change that tire, right? And so, as a young kid, my father taught me how to change a tire, so I'm feeling pretty good in that moment. And so I'm feeling confident in that particular situation. If a student comes to me and asks me for help with their AP calculus assignment, I am not going to feel very confident because I haven't done calculus in probably almost 30 years. And so in that situation, I'm not feeling like I have the skills I need to succeed, right? And so the elements I talked about, problem solving, self-advocacy, self-awareness. And then how do we build this? So this is for both teachers and students, right? How do we build competence in somebody? We give them a specific positive feedback. And so the word here that's the most important, right? Most people think it's positive. In reality, the word is specific. So you need to tell me specifically what I'm doing well. And so if I get the right answer on a math test, the specific positive feedback will be something along the lines of, hey, John, I really like how you solved that problem. Can you walk me through your thinking in that? Kendall, thanks for sharing some of those acorn squash with me from your garden. Man, they were the perfect ripeness and tasted great. Okay, so being specific about the feedback, opportunities to respond. If you never get a chance to speak up, you're never going to start feeling competent, right? And so think about when you're in the classroom, or if the teacher's asking questions and you didn't do the reading and you have no idea, are you raising your hand? Well, most of us are kind of hiding in the back, hoping that we don't get called on because we didn't do the reading. And so we're not feeling very competent, right? You build competence by allowing people to respond to questions. And so there's different ways we can do that throughout. And then opportunities to practice, right? Just like if you want to become a professional basketball player or professional football player, everybody needs to practice. And so you don't become good at something without practicing. Even LeBron James, right, has and still does practice, right, in order to maintain his stature as one of the best players in the league. And so one of the tools that's your introductory tool to competence is the good day plan. And again, this is on the website and it's on the link that Carla has. And the good day plan is just really easy, right? And this is the first step in building competence. So when you hear from the youth in a little bit, right, they're more towards the top of the mountain on their ability to build competence. And you'll hear their stories and how they got there. But the initial step is something as simple as just creating a good day plan. What happens on a good day? Does it happen now? What needs to happen to make it a good day? And then really important, who can help me, right? And this builds competence in the sense that, one, you lay out what is a good day. And two, if something happens along the way where something goes wrong, it doesn't have to ruin your day. You don't have to feel incompetent the rest of the day, right? You can assess it through your plan, figure out what you need to do. And most importantly, look at that support network and who's there to help you, right? Even someone like LeBron James, right, had a support network. So he talked a lot about in the beginning, right? He had his mom driving him to all these practices. He had his coaches. Now he's got like a special chef, and so he's eating a super healthy diet at home, even though he is. I read an interview where he is a junk food addict. But right, good day plan kind of sets the stage for that. And so lastly, with this idea of building competence, right, there's a couple things that need to happen first. So the first is disability awareness. And so you have to understand, what your disability is in the sense of what are you good at and what do you need help with? I don't really care what the label is and I don't care what all the big words are, but you need to know what are you good at? What don't you need a whole lot of help with? And then where are the times where you do need some help, right? So that you can become competent in those areas as well. The idea of self-advocacy, where we start small, right? You don't have to stand up on stage in front of 1,000 people and talk about your disability as the first time trying to learn how to self-advocate. We start really small, just by asking for things, right, that we need. And then teachers and students practice, right? So at home, how do we build competence, right? We can cook dinner for our family and we choose the menu one night a week, right? We can, if we're on a job site, if we're working, we can tell a supervisor of a necessary accommodation we need at work. At school, what can we do? We can tell a new teacher about our disability and how they can help us succeed, right? These are just little steps we can take in different environments in order to build competence as we go. So now I'm going to turn it over to Kendall, and Kendall's going to talk with our youth leaders about how they went about building competence in their journey along the way. And we will pause throughout for questions from teachers, from students, whoever. Please feel free to type directly into the chat. And then at the end, we'll save some time. If you want to unmute, you can share some stories or ask some questions as well. Okay, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kendall and the Undetermined youth leaders.
All right. So yeah, just so you guys know, I mean, if you didn't figure this out, if you were here last month, we're really good at segueing as we need to throughout a session. So if a good question comes up, we'll try to entertain it, and we'll just kind of move along with you as we go. Carla said something right at the beginning that I just want to re-engage with, and she said self-determination is a journey, right? And so I think applying that same idea to competence is really important, right? It's not as though the things that you develop skills around, or the strengths that you have, just develop overnight. Like, you just don't wake up one morning and be like, I know how to do this, right? But it's something that develops over time. And the things that John just talked about, that feedback, that opportunity to practice, all those sort of things, are the tools that help you develop that over time. But it's not just like a one-time fits all. I'd also say too, before we jump into these stories, is that oftentimes what I observe is teachers who provide lots of feedback, but very few opportunities to practice, or they offer tons of opportunities to practice, but never any feedback. And I think that when you just practice one and you don't practice all those things that John just said, it makes it really, really hard for a student to kind of internalize that confidence in themselves. So it's about the practice and the feedback simultaneously happening at the same time. And that's really like the sweet spot, when you can get all those things kind of on one kind of page. So we have 4 youth leaders here with us this afternoon. We have Jonathan, Chloe, Chat, and we have a new addition this month, Dylan, who I'm really hoping he can articulate one really good story about learning how to hike that I'm looking forward to hearing. So let's start with this first question about competence. And I really want to hear about youth leaders. I want you to tell me a story that demonstrates a situation where you became competent. I want to hear how you kind of developed that over time. So if you can chime in whatever order you want, but tell me what that story would be for you guys.
First, for me, I developed competence when the pandemic really hit, and I had to time manage everything from what time my virtual classes were and when I needed to set time aside to study for those classes. And so I had to reevaluate what might not have worked before coming into the pandemic, and then changing those things and really focusing on what does work for me. So for example, I now have a desk calendar that sits at my desk, and I'm able to really box out time for my specific class so I can stay on track. And then aside from that, I also have extracurricular activities that I am involved with. So I need to make sure I am organized in that capacity as well. So I would say the pandemic has really made me laser focus on what I need to prioritize in order to be successful in college.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I want to insert something that I just thought about. I knew we had this conversation before, but notice how competence is something that you're constantly developing, right? So your environment, the social environment, the work environment, the school environment that your youth are in or that you are in are constantly changing. They're constantly evolving, right? So the pandemic happens, and things that you felt competent in at one point, you no longer feel competent in because the situation changed. And so what you find is that you're constantly needing to kind of reteach yourself what it looks like to be competent and to have those skills. And that's really that idea of the problem solving that is kind of at the core of what John was talking about earlier. Life is full of problems. You can't really get away from them, and you're going to have to deal with them along the way. So that's a great example, Jonathan. Thanks for sharing. Who's next?
I can go. Oh, sorry, Chloe. For me, it's kind of opposite of Jonathan. I was able to gain a lot of competence my freshman year of college last year. My goal was always to get all my assignments done before Friday, because I was very big into football. So being able to go to the games here at JMU and then watching NFL on Sunday, I didn't want anything to distract from that. And then the pandemic hit, and all that kind of went haywire. I was very unmotivated, very unorganized, and I kind of waited to the last minute to do a lot of assignments. So I didn't have that freedom of using my competence to get my assignments done by Friday, so I could enjoy the weekend, or if something did come up, I can use it then. And this past semester has been really good because JMU has a lot of football again. So it's giving me that motivation, that goal to finish everything by Friday so that I can enjoy football and then enjoy anything else that happens during the weekend.
Nice. Yeah. So there's a few things in that one, right? We talked about last month about this idea of failure being kind of an opportunity for learning, right? And so I think that's something that chat kind of dealt with. I think what else is interesting in chat's story is this idea that there are motivators, right? That there are motivators in place that can help us build competence. And some of that is like the social feedback that we get from educators. But some of it is just things outside of that, things like football or things like leisure time or things like just hanging out. And so when you can kind of tie those things to building those competent skills, it really gets to the place where kids can build that self-efficacy because they get to do the things that they want to be able to do.
And, I know Chloe's and Dylan's story both really, that's such an important point, is that motivator, right? And it's got to be a self motivator. I think sometimes, I fall into the trap of thinking I can motivate my kids or motivate my students. And it's just not as powerful as something that is a self motivator. And so figuring out or helping each other figure out what are those self motivators.
I think, Chloe, that's your cue, maybe.
Okay. So for me, my confidence comes from me being able to basically do stuff on my own, or get myself up, do my daily routine, and I do it for the most part of my what motivates me is the fear of and my goal and my goal was that covered all the skills I need to do that stuff because it can be taken away at any moment. And have an example of that. So this past December, I have couple child surgery on my right hand, and that's the hand I use to do everything. Drive my chair, I eat with it, I do everything with it. And so I couldn't use it for a while. So what I do I kept saying I'll get back to it after I heal, after I get better. And I did right back to where I was before my operation. So,
So Chloe, just to like clarify, because this is like a really like complex concept.
it is.
So you're saying that the ability to physically do things on your own as best as you can and as frequently as you can is the thing that lets you sense and feel competence in your life.
Yeah.
And that there are times in life where after surgeries, or if it's just a bad day,
Yeah.
that some of that is taken away and you need to rely on other people to get that, but that the ultimate motivator for you is to have that independence, right? And to be able to say that you can kind of do those things on your own, or get to choose the degree of help that you want from other people.
Right. Yeah.
All right. And I think that's
Yeah,
like,
I think, yeah, go ahead, Kendall.
no, and I just think that's like a very key point, right? In this idea of building competence is that who gets to decide the types of supports that build that self-efficacy. You can steal self-efficacy from Chloe really quickly by prescribing to her a way to get her independence back. It has to be, yeah, go ahead, Chloe.
And that doesn't always happen.
Right, right. And so I think it's, as educators, particularly, I think we just need to be really sensitive and responsive to giving voice to that process, because in that process, they're able to kind of build that self-efficacy. Otherwise, they don't own it, right? It's yours and not theirs.
Yeah, Chloe gives a great example of, we say competence, and we say self-determination is a journey. You have to keep working to stay self-determined. And what an example, because, having carpal tunnel surgery on her dominant hand and losing some of that competence and independence. And, I can just tell you from my own standpoint, when something like that's happened to me, I'm tough to be around. Like, I don't like having people help me do something that I'm used to doing myself. And so, I think we just need to understand that it's okay, right? We have bad days, surgeries happen, things happen. That's when it becomes really important to ask for help, and to give a little grace for folks who are struggling, because that's a big thing to go from feeling very competent to not very competent in the same situation. Good story, Chloe.
All right, Dylan, it's your go, man.
Test 1 2 1 2. Hello.
We can hear you.
Pretty much. I would like to apologize in advance. Much I should have been at the February one, but I couldn't make it. Thank God I made it to this one. And before you're like, oh, Dylan is nothing but text. By the power of magic, you can see my camera. Possibly. Hello? No?
We can hear you, Dylan, just can't see you yet.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna keep going with it. So pretty much, I want to make one thing very clear. Confidence isn't just something that you're like, oh, I am instantly gifted with. I have the power to do anything. No. It's something that you not only have to self-indulge yourself into, it's something that you have to forge by yourself. It's constant. You have to go in like, all right, I want to do this, and I want to get to there. And you have to keep forging it. You have to keep working on it so that at not only that your body and mind are capable of going with it, but that you're like, all right, I feel like I can do this. Let's do it. And pretty much this is where my story begins. Pretty much, for reference, I am a Boy Scout. I was with Troop 1966. Pretty much, we were nicknamed the Pyromaniacs. We set everything on fire. But the main thing that we usually did was a Philmont trip every 4 years. And I was a Life Scout at the time, trying to go for Eagle. And it was going to be my last year. I was going to Philmont. And in my greatest move of confidence and ignorance, I went, hey, I'm 6'8", have no experience with hiking, literally have no intuition. Yeah, let's go to Philmont and see what happens. Oh boy, was that a roller coaster. Pretty much, I had the confidence, but I did not have the physicalities to do so. First practice trip, 5-mile hike around a lake. I died the first mile with 20 pounds in my pack. Think about that for a second. I am 6'8", 270 pounds. On the first mile, I literally die because of 20 pounds on my back. I literally had no muscle at all. I was a noodle, a very tall noodle with a bit of fat. Pretty much, there was a lot of stuff to do. That first day, I was like, okay, I need to start working out. I started going on hikes by myself, practicing for the day. And months came by, and I got slightly better. And then the last trip came in, 10 miles, back and forth. Easy trip to sound like, right? No, it was a part of the Appalachia. For reference, the lake was completely flat. There were no hills. There were barely any. The Appalachian Trail, especially the one where we're going, where one of the trails is called Devil's Twister. Devil's Twister, that sounds like the world's worst board game. Pretty much, it was a pain, to say the least. It was very windy. And I realized if I had died on the first mile on the lake, and I barely could finish this Appalachian Trail, this very short Appalachian Trail, the Appalachian Trail goes for thousands of miles, then I could not possibly survive Philmont. So I was sad, pretty much. I didn't know what to do. My confidence was very low because I'd been working, or so I thought. And I go to my mom, I go, hey, how can I get better? I don't think I can get any better than this. And she's like, oh, that's BS. That is so much BS. You literally could go even further. Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna bike 9 miles. You're gonna walk 5 miles, and you're going to do yoga in between. And I was like, won't that kill me? Literally, yeah, I could barely do a mile on the lake, and you want me to bike 9 miles? And she's like, yes. And that is the point. If you die now to work toward this, then you will go further beyond. Let me summarize that. Basically, she wanted me to work to the point where I felt so exhausted that I could be confident, that I could literally do this. So for the next 3 weeks before Philmont arrived, I literally worked myself to the bone. I did the 9 miles. I walked the 5 miles in the summer, in August, 109 heat. I increased my backpack carry weight to 40 pounds just so I could be ready for this. And pretty much when the day came, I found out that Philmont burnt down. Honestly, you're probably like, wait, what? That was so anticlimactic. What's the point of telling the story? Literally, you went through all that pain, all that suffering for nothing. You did no. Oh, you literally told a pointless story. Well, you see, even though I may have lost the chance of a lifetime to go to Philmont and hike for my with my troop, which I felt was the greatest honor since it was my last year, I had honestly some good karma come up my way. Because Philmont ended, I was able to finish my Eagle Scout project. And when people heard that I wanted to go to Philmont, not because I wanted to die in the heat of Arizona, but because I wanted to go to my troop, the first day my project began, literally every single person at the troop decided to come because they wanted to help me with this, which helped me get confident to finish the project. And then years later, I found out I was diabetic. Pretty much I thought about how much fun I had on those hiking trips, how much fun I had going with my troop. And then I developed a very healthy hobby, if you will, of going outside so that I could lower my blood sugar, just because it was for the fun of it. The point is that pretty much confidence isn't just something that you forge or make and literally spend time on. It's something that's reusable. It is recyclable. It can be used in many different ways. If you had the confidence to do one thing and literally you lost that chance, you can use that confidence again so that you can do something even greater than that. In other words, I lost my chance to go to Philmont. But that does not mean I did not finish becoming an Eagle Scout and also became healthier just because of that trip. Just because I put my head to it. Oh.
It's a great story,
Excellent, man.
Dylan. Lot to unpack there, Kendall.
Yeah, right. Good thing. Bad.
Yeah, sorry. I'm
made
going to
up- you-
soliloquies, if you will.
You just made up for February, I'll tell you. Nice job. No, so I love that idea of it's recyclable, right? And I like the idea that you can build competence toward and skills towards one idea. And even if you don't reach that goal, you still have practiced something that might be useful in another area. So I love that because that we're constantly building skills that can be repurposed in some other places. So I think that's a really great story.
Real quick, I think
yeah,
I
go
think the thing I really like about that story is that all these stories really is that building competence can sound really easy, especially when someone's talking from the place of competence, right? And so but it's hard, right? And a lot of times you fail along the way, right? And I think the key we learn is, which Kendall alluded to earlier, that failure is not a bad word. Somehow along the line we started making failure a bad word, and failure is how you learn, right? Something doesn't go right, you stop, you figure out what went wrong, and then you go after it again. And so Dylan put a lot of work and energy and effort, and then he got some help from his mom, and so there's a lot of different pieces there that show you that, this isn't just a you want to be competent in something, so you try for a minute and then you feel good, right? It's a process, and it's a lot of hard work in between.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I mean, I think in that vein, I think that it's worth exploring a little bit. And I don't want to go down a long, rabbit hole with this one, but I think asking you guys, what are some ways that your competence has been challenged? I think Chloe talked a little bit about it in terms of sometimes needing to rely on people who want to do everything for you. I think that's an example. What are other ways that maybe your competence is challenged, or building your sense of competence is challenged?
I don't know if my story will be any interesting than Dylan's was, but for me, my challenge basically occurs when I don't stick to my schedule, when I fall behind, sticking to that time management piece that I talked about gaining competence in. So if I fall behind in one thing, then it falls behind in everything else behind that, because that one piece is crucial to staying on task. And if I mess that up, then everything else behind that messes up as well. And so that's where I agree with John when he said failure. It's not a bad word. You just learn from what you messed up on, and then you try and do better again the next time.
Jonathan, is there a specific, I can remember And when I'm really stressed out, I still have these dreams, right? I used to have this dream in college where when I was really stressed, I was like, I like missed all these classes and was super behind on all these assignments. And so even now at like 46 years old, when I'm really stressed out, I have that dream. So once you are behind and you know you screwed up, right? What's your strategy? How do you fix it? Because I think a lot of people stop there, right? Because they don't know what to do.
So for me, if I screw up, let's say I screw up on a Wednesday or a Thursday, I keep going with everything else, even though it's going to be messed up. But on the weekends, on Saturday, I take that entire day and I get caught up on whatever it is I messed up on Wednesday. And then I wait until that following Monday during business hours and email my professors and I say, okay, I fell behind. Is there any way that you can help explain X, Y, and Z to me so I can understand it better for the test or the project? So although everything else might be messed up, there's still time for me to recover and recuperate from that. I just had one day, and even though the entire weekend might be blown at that point, that's the consequence of not being prepared and not staying on track. So that really plays a part in what I do, my self-talk sort of, to do better.
Yeah, that's a great point on self-talk, right? Self-talk is that voice in your head, right? And you gotta be able to know when it's turning negative and stop it, right? And that's a skill that you have to learn, right? Because nothing will destroy a feeling of confidence like your own negative self-talk. That's a good point, Jonathan.
We have Leslie. I'm glad we're having some audience participation here. Leslie, I think that you could unmute your mic if you.
I'll unmute her.
Okay.
No, she can. She can do it.
Okay.
Making it sound like you have duct tape on her. I'll unmute her. Rip.
Leslie, can you come off mic? At the bottom of your screen, there's a mute button and an unmute button. You can unmute yourself there. Feel free. You just muted yourself. No.
She's having a little difficulty with the technology. Give her a second.
Yeah, it's one of those days. Don't worry. Pretty much, I had one yesterday. I couldn't find where the camera button was.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Barely. You're like a mouse, but yes.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. I was having a little bit of technology issues, but I've been in so much stress that whenever I'm stressed out, I just be like I'm like I have so much stress and I have so much pressure on my shoulders that my parents told me like just like do this and finish that. And now all my teachers are like all up on my shoulders, putting pressure on me, and I have like so much stress that like I stress eat sometimes. I stress eat that without me realizing that realizing it. Um, I stress eat, and I don't know if that's an actual thing. I don't know if that's a cure or something, but whenever I'm in so much stress, I stress eat, and like that's why I'm a little bit chubby, because I stress eat a lot, and like it's just like a I don't know where I just stress eat when I'm stressed, when I have a lot of work that I need to do, that I need to make up my grades. I just stress eat, and I just like it helps me sometimes, but I need to I need to not. I don't know how to like cope with that. It's
Yeah,
just so hard for
that's a
me,
great question.
like not
So
stress.
so Leslie, I would it is Leslie, right? I'm reading that right on, did I say it
Leslie
correct?
Ramirez, yep.
So I know that John mentioned early on the idea of self-advocacy. And I think that that's one thing that I would say that all of these youth leaders, and even including John and myself, right, have probably experienced high levels of of stress, right? And one of the things that we as a team have done is really pushed each other to be honest and to self-advocate for what we need in those times when we're stressed. And so that would be one area that I think is really part of building, competence in those times where things get kind of out of control, is to speak up for the things that you need. And if you look at the good day plan, that's one of those areas where you can kind of talk into that, is advocating for what you need to in order to have a good day, so that you don't kind of always enter into this stress eating kind of thing.
One thing, maybe Chad or Chloe can jump in. One thing that Leslie said that I see happen a lot, right, is that she's feeling some stress from a lot of different places. And maybe all those people don't know that they're all participating in the piling on, right? So if teachers aren't talking to other teachers, or if you're not talking to them, or I know for me, I work with so many different people. If I have 10 different people ask me 10 different things, but none of them know that the other 9 have asked me something, they don't really understand why I'm stressed. And so, I don't know if Chad or Chloe, you have any strategies for that, because I think that happens to everybody.
So if I may, pretty much, I honestly understand Andrew, Leslie. Pretty much, I know the feeling. Pretty much being drowned in so much stress. You feel like you can't breathe, but you can, and it's pretty much it piles on you, pretty much like a bunch of bricks. Pretty much, I am a messed up man. I will admit that full-heartedly. Great storyteller, terrible at some things, even scheduling sometimes. I have 3 alarms for this. I was late for this. Pretty much, my advice to you is to pretty much look at yourself a little bit and accept it. Yes, pretty much you are losing. Yes, pretty much you are having a difficult time. But if you accept that you are doing this and that you can do better, then you can exceed pretty much. You can and literally improve yourself. Because denying the situation is way worse. You will fall way harder if you deny that this is happening. And you telling us this? That's the first step. That is the largest step that you have to take. The next step you have to take is planning and motivating yourself. You have to keep going with this. You have to talk to people.
Good job, Dylan. Chloe, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, I agree with you. You have to talk to people, communicate is the biggest thing when it comes down to it.
Chat, you have anything to add on that one?
No, I would definitely say communicating, and it's also finding, if you are stressed, just finding something to do to not think about it at time, just to put it away. When there's been times where I know I have a lot of things to do and I just need a break day, and sometimes that's all we need is just taking a day to just relax and giving ourselves time to breathe, and then focusing on the thing you're worried about or whatever the next day, not worrying about it for one day, and just giving some time to think about it so you're not as worried all the time. So it gives it a little break in between, always helps.
I'm going to take that advice. I like that.
This is really good. And I think this is like a good segue. We have about 4 minutes, and I want to give a little bit time for if there are other questions from the group. But I also want to put another question in front of you to think about, youth leaders. And it's what advice would you have for teachers and students who are trying to develop areas of competence? What should they do? Where should they start? How do they start developing those skills and those mindsets starting today or tomorrow? Like what is really the first thing that they should start doing? So I'm gonna put that in your ball court. I'm gonna see if there's other questions that kind of come up.
So that is a very good question. I'm sorry.
Go for it, Dylan.
So pretty much, we've obviously been telling you, like, yeah, you got to be confident and you got to do this, you got to do that. Woo! Confidence! But we haven't actually told you where to begin. Pretty much we've laid down the path, but we haven't exactly told you how to gain it. Pretty much the way I usually gain confidence is pretty much, if I see it and I want to do it, I'll try it. If I can't do it, then, well, I tried. There's nothing simpler than that. You gain confidence by trying things that you want to do or what you feel you are comfortable with. Let's just say you want to skydive, but you're afraid of heights. Honestly, I am afraid of heights too, and I'm 6'8". Pretty much, you gotta get used to it. You gotta get confident enough, like get used to a wind tunnel, or pretty much do some training for skydiving. And then when you feel comfortable, when you feel ready, you can do it. Point is, you have to adjust at your own pace, or the pace that you are comfortable with. You don't go like, woo, I can do this, and then, yeah, you don't get anywhere. Pretty much, you have to say, all right, today's the day. I want to do this.
Yeah, Dylan, I like what you said, trying to do things that you want to do and doing it at your own pace. I think that's good advice. And sometimes that looks like moving faster than other people want you to, and sometimes that means moving slower. That's great. And just keeping my eyes on that chat box. So I can also open it up if you guys would like to verbally ask a question or have a comment that you'd like to make. We can do that as well. Chloe, what would be some advice that you would give around advocacy, particularly? I think we kind of can underplay that a little bit.
I like the idea of not taking no for it, because I've heard that a lot in my life, and I push past that every time. Never fail. Also, set goals for yourself, because that helps. They don't have to be big goals. It can be as small as you want them to be. And then, talk to the support system about it. And if they're not understanding, which can happen at times, then go to somebody who does. And if I've talked to people a lot over the past 2 years, and that really helped me find that person who has that open mind.
Yeah. Well, and I think that like one thing we hadn't even, we haven't really named it this yet, but one thing I see in you, Chloe, right, is that you have this confidence and this belief in yourself, right, and who you are, which I think is what John was referring to as self-efficacy, right? This belief in yourself that when a situation occurs that you that you don't agree with, or that someone gives you a solution that you don't want to go down, that you have the confidence in yourself to say, that's not what I want. That's not the way I want to go about this. I like to try it this way. And that's one thing I see in you that has made you competent, right? Is because you know yourself.
I don't always do that, and I regret every time I don't, because heck, I could do whatever I want to. It's just having that confidence to say, hey, I'm not going to do it your way. I'm going to do it my way, or whatever way is going for.
I think the one thing, but oh, sorry, Chloe, go ahead.
And I regret the time that I haven't done that.
Yeah, I think one thing that Dylan's story and Chat's story and Jonathan's story and Chloe's story and most of the youth leaders' stories, the importance of competence is every time they achieve a goal and get to a new point in their life, right? And so let's just say they get out of high school and they all got into college, right? And they're all at different colleges all over Virginia. And then, new environments and new people present new barriers, right? And so, one thing we found is that, like Chloe said, don't take no for an answer, because, there's barriers are going to constantly present themselves. And my wife has a bumper sticker on her car that says, well-behaved women seldom make history, right? And so, make no mistake that disability rights is a movement, right? Equal rights was a movement. Civil rights was a movement. Disability rights is a movement. And there's going to be people who might not understand or whatever, right? That you're going to have to push through. And sometimes you got to go through them. Sometimes you got to go around them. And but understanding that just because you get somewhere, doesn't mean the barriers disappear, right? Just because you feel like if you give yourself an A+ in advocacy and you're competent, right? Like Chloe says, sometimes you just don't have the energy to advocate for yourself. You're just like, do I need to fight another battle? Mm-hmm. And even though she regrets not doing it, it can be exhausting to always feel that way. I get that. But understanding, that's the case. It's not like you get to the promised land and then there's no more barriers, right? You got to keep honing those skills. I don't know if chat, Dylan or Jonathan, you've kind of experienced some of that as you've kind of progressed through college.
So pretty much, I haven't really had that problem. The college I go to is the University of Mary Washington. Pretty much, they are very disability pro. They are very, a bit more specific. They are very anything pro. Pretty much, as long as they're helping you, as long as you're there to achieve success, they're like, we'll help you all the way. Woo! Pretty much, I rarely have had problems. Pretty much, with the staff and such. The only problem I've had is myself. Pretty much, the only problem I've had are problems that I made for myself, because my first semester can be basically summarized as no talk, video game only. Pretty much, I spent more time on a screen than I did listen to a professor, read a book, write a paper, or even look at a person. That is how my first semester was, and that was a terrible mistake by all accounts. But pretty much, when I realized that I had to up my game, that I literally had to become the bigger man for this, that I had to take responsibility again, I had I decided, all right, yeah, I gotta talk to my professors. I gotta be in my classes. I gotta stop distracting myself with all of these things that pull me away from the class. I have to be the one that says no to myself. You should never say no in a fight, but you should always say no if you're fighting yourself. Because if you don't, you will lose. Well, lose sometimes, at least.
Good point, Dylan. I like that idea of, having this kind of battle yourself a little bit. How about Chad or Jonathan, real quick, before we run out of time? Anything that you ran into at the university, or what's your experiences as far as barriers and competence?
For me, say not having anybody there to tell you to get out of bed in the morning, you have to do that on your own. So leaving from home where your mom or dad is practically there nagging, making sure you're up for class, out the door on time. It's a lot different when you actually get to college and you're basically on your own. I mean, I don't know about chat, but that's one of the things that has been a barrier for me. But I mean, I've overcome it because of skills that we've developed, but it's difficult to get used to.
Yeah, I'll 100% agree with Jonathan on that. It's hard when you don't have someone to keep you accountable. So it's just making sure that you learn those skills and learning what works for you, whether it's setting 5 alarms in the morning to make sure you get up out of bed, whether it's getting up early to go to the gym or whatever, to get you setting lists, creating a calendar, whatever it takes for you to get those things that you need to get done during the day. Because like I said, when you're up at college or when you're by yourself, no one's going to be messaging, hey, go get groceries, go do your assignment, do whatever. So it's up to you to keep accountable on that.
That's really a perfect segue, Kendall, into next month when we talk about relatedness. I think everyone hit on it, right? So relatedness is just, who's your people, right? It's just feeling you're part of a group, and who are your, and so when you're in these new environments, you got to find your people, right? And then Chloe made a big point about you got to set goals, and it doesn't even matter if they're big goals or small goals, but this idea around this importance of setting goals. And so that'll be the focus. I don't know if you want to add anything else, Kendall, but that'll be the focus next month, is talking about this importance of relatedness.
Yeah, and I think that, again, I said this the first week, is recognizing that all three, competence, relatedness, and autonomy, they all are interwoven, right? So when you have one, the others are strengthened, right? So, we can talk about competence today, but realize that it's contingent and strengthened by the relationships that we have. And you can hear that in what our youth leaders are saying. So I think you have some good stories to play off of and to imagine what it looks like for you today. So that's all I have, John. I'm going to turn it back to Carla to close us out.
Well,
sounds great.
Thank you very much. I mean, I enjoyed listening to the stories today, and I hope that our participants and the students that are participating enjoyed it as well. We hope that you'll be able to join us on April the 6th, same time. It's a Tuesday, 2:00 p.m. for another hour. And educators, students, please complete the survey. Educators, help the students complete the survey and let us know your thoughts about this session. And we look forward to seeing you guys next month. John, do you have anything else to add?
We'll see you all next month. Thanks for participating today, and we're excited to talk to you again when it's even a little bit warmer in April.
Or a little wetter, who knows?
Good point, Dylan. Thank y'all. Have a great afternoon.
Bye-bye.